I've had a couple days now, and I made took those pieces of 3/8 exterior, just regular fir plywood, and epoxied them on to the two side seats, and another piece onto the bow seat. So now that they're on, I'm going to go ahead and drill a hole and use my jigsaw and then cut out that part of them. And then I'll show you what I've done on the transom seat when I pull off the wires on it. So let me go ahead and then pull the clamps off, and we'll come back to this. When you're drilling these out, be sure you have some waste wood in behind so you don't ruin any kind of table, a good table, workbench. And then come in, and then just on the inside, I took a pencil along where I took my compass and scribed these lines. I went ahead and took a pencil along here just to darken them up a bit so I could see them when I'm using the jigsaw. So cool, I just blew out the edge of that. Epoxy that back in place. Okay. The only thing bad about fir plywood, these upper things get to be a little bad, but I can glue that back in. Let me go ahead and do that the rest of them, then I'll jigsaw them out off camera. Well, if you're going to be smarter than the average bear, drill your hole when the grain's going like this and not over here where you got short grain. I learned on the second one. Well, if this is cured, all these Gel Magic seams that we put have cured, so now I can come along and cut the wires. Pull them out. And just reef them out. Just use the curve of the tool to grab them. That crack was the Gel Magic around the wire on the inside. That gets beveled anyway. And glass taped. I'll do the other ones off camera. Well, I'm mixing up some easy fillet. I'm getting down low in the containers, and they're getting a little stiff because I haven't used them for a while, and we'll need to add a little bit of A to here and a little bit of B to here to add some more liquid into them. So we got our cup here. As I've showed you not 100 times, but a bunch of times. Just cement truck it in. Just scrape the sides as you roll the container, and it'll go in like a big old, yep. And now we'll pull it out of the container. I had a can I used to put these bags into, but I seem to have misplaced it or recycled it, so I had a piece of, I think it's 2-inch PVC. Works the same function. Put it down in the bag, and then you can take your putty knife and just gently push it into the corner. And put a knot in it. Let me go get my scissors. And then you will just cut the tip off here. We'll come back when I'm actually doing it. Okay, I'm going to just use an old leftover Gel Magic tip. No use in bringing one of the balls out. Just squeeze in a windrow. I may have started off with too much at the end there, so Just drag a little bit with it. I'll go ahead and clean that up after I get the rest of this done. By using this bag technique, it makes it really simple. It's easy, not real messy. And it's almost there, so don't add too much. Otherwise you'll be pushing up one of those up the sides. And I won't glass this part, that'll just be fillet strengthening on the inside. I can do the rest of these off camera, it's pretty much the same thing. And then when you get ready to clean up the edges, just take your putty knife and scrape it away like you've seen me do it hundreds of times. This sound should be familiar and irritating to some. It just cleans it up. And then you don't have to waste a lot of time sanding. And wipe off your tool. Come back. I used some of the leftover fillet material to fill in that crack. Remember when I chipped this piece of wood out? So I put that in and pressed it back down, so I'll let that cure and then I'll sand it flat again. So save those pieces, you can epoxy them back in place. Well, it's been a couple days since we had this last one. I'm going to add a couple more clips to finish up this segment we've gotten going. And what I've done was we had the fillets cured. You can see came out really nice and smooth inside. One thing about it, if you do them often enough, you get to be fairly good at it. The other thing I've done, I did this yesterday and I didn't need to show you. I took, there were some overlaps on the front, these side panels. One was worse than the other that stuck out maybe, I don't know, maybe 1/8 of an inch or whatever. So to smooth them back, instead of trying to file it down and rip out the edges of the top layer of the lamination on the plywood, I used my Japanese draw saw and then just held it flush along the side here and then cut it down. And then once I did that, then I took my rasp, my hand rasp, and went in this direction away from the edges, and then to kind of like see where the grain's going. So you kind of go up like this because the grain's running along in here. So just be careful when you're doing that. Same with here, round over this side. The top panel was overlapping the front one, so it was I went over the rasping rounding on this one, whereas the sides overlap the top, so they got rasped out. And then I went and took the rasp, and I don't know if you can see this, I beveled it a little to the outside, so when it's on the all the way around, so when it's in place, the tube, the Gel Magic tube, when I do the 100% jug stitch, will put more epoxy in. And the other thing I found that is if I can get more epoxy in along the edge, then I won't have a gap on the inside between where it sets. There won't be a gap in behind here. I've got that one done, and these guys are all ready, and they need their edges sealed, and so I'm going to mix up some epoxy and we'll switch back over to the messy workbench. And I went down to got some more epoxy here yesterday, and the Real System 3, the good stuff. And so we'll do these edges and seal them off. So let's reset up, and you can see I had the sander out too. With some time in between, I've been going around some of the spots inside, and like the side of the daggerboard trunk tower, getting those ready for when we get the panels in place, that I can go ahead and paint them. I don't know if I'll finish painting, but I know I'm going to put a good thick coat of primer on the inside. So that may change, but I know we'll primer them and not epoxy them. Let's go over to the workbench. Well, I've got my mix on my silver tip, and I'm just, you can see the little marks there. I need to make a little bit better, but I can see them pretty good. I'm using drams. One's, the lower mark's 2 drams, the upper one's 3 drams. Doesn't really matter. I mean, as long as it's 2 to 1, whatever it is. And then take your teenage boy sock here and clean the tool. Probably going to, on this first one, we get the acid brush out. I'm going to do the edges on those, the ones we cut out. Pretty much everything else has been epoxied, but I want to get a coat on these edges that have never been epoxied. So I want to get the epoxy in there to seal off the end grain, so if any water does get in there, it'll be blocked by the epoxy from having capillary action up the end grain, because the end grain on this wood is very porous. So if you don't do this, your boat is maybe epoxied and sealed, but water gets in and it's over for the plywood. Watch for spills and runs. These guys, I think I'm going to give them a good coat, and I'm going to try something to I'll let them set for a minute and then put on a second coat after the first one's been absorbed. And I think I'm going to set these in place on our lines that we had marked, and then just let it set there and jump stitch itself in place, so then I don't have to worry about it when I come back with the gel magic. So let me do the rest of this off camera, and helps to take your putty knife, get rid of the excess runs. I'll do the rest of these off camera, and then we'll come back when I'm trying to set them.